Okay, welcome back to part 2 of the 6-month celebration with the Common Corner. Thank you for tuning into this second video of this 2-part series because yes, I realized that maybe 2 hours worth of footage is a bit too much to upload all in one go, and I felt like I also needed a break in between filming. I thought that maybe you can also take a break between these 2 videos, and we can then dedicate a whole video and probably a whole another hour to just answering these questions on journaling. All right, so let's get cracking, I think. Let me know if there's any discrepancies between kind of transferring from the other video to this one. I'll try to make it as smooth for you as possible. And in this video as well, you can see a link to part 1. If you haven't watched that yet, I recommend going with that one first because I'll be referring back to some of the things that I talked about there while I go through my journey of journaling and answering your questions as well. This is the part that I've been most excited to talk about because you guys asked some really nice questions about my practice, so I'm excited to dive into it. Okay, I'll just have a sip of my drink and we can get going. All right, so I think here I have a little bit of a journaling timeline that I will be using while I answer, I think, like the first 3 questions. So let's keep that there. And the first question I wanted to answer was, when did I start journaling? I guess kind of this, they're asking about this intentional journaling practice that I have at the moment, and when did that really start? And what do I love most about the practice? I think I'll answer this question first. What do I love most about this practice? There's a few things and I think I talk about them like all the time, but what I love the most is that I have a space every day for my brain to exist in, for it to be its true self, for it to write down whatever it's thinking. And my book really is my second brain at this point. It's all the important things noted down, all the important thoughts, the learnings and the reflections, as well as the daily logs of my life, all noted down in my book, in my journal. That's something that I love the most. That's something that I'm so grateful for. The kind of reflection that it gives me is invaluable, I feel. So that, and then I think the creative aspect of it as well. I mentioned in the previous video that I have been photographing for years now, and it used to be my main creative practice. But I feel like that visual aspect of photography and making these visually pleasing collections of things in my photos, I don't really know how to talk about it. I can do the same thing and it's just as visually pleasing to my eyes when that collection of things is on paper. And I love that aspect of creating my spreads, is that sometimes it gives me a bit of a challenge when I'm trying to work out how does this page or this spread flow together the best. And it just, like, I don't know, it reinvigorates me. Is that the right word to use? It just gives me a lot of energy to get to do that every single day. That's what I love the most. It's just, yeah. Okay, I'm trying not to dive in too deep because I could talk about all of these questions for an hour by itself. So, when did I start journaling? I can trace down my intentional journaling that I had a system within for the last 8 years. Before that, I haven't looked at those notebooks before 2016 in years, in 10 years maybe. I know that they exist. I know that there's like various notebooks that I've collected, done various bits in. It's always been very subconscious ever since I was maybe 8 or 9 years old. I got gifted this notebook from my dad, I think when I was 8, I want to say, that had like a metallic cover, like a hard steel metallic cover. I thought it was the coolest thing, and that was my first true commonplace book. There was barely any journaling in it, but there was all of this kind of these notes on the books I was reading, little things and things ephemera that I collected, and notes about them. And then eventually I finished that notebook, and I just got another notebook and another notebook, and it was all just very messy, and there was no system in it. It was just a place where I just would go and do whatever I wanted in. And I did that for a while, and I think eventually I maybe got like a planner for school. So when we lived in the US, the school would always give you planners, kind of these vertical weekly spreads, and I also had a monthly spread and some notes pages at the back. And I would always just use those, like religiously. I would use those to plan my life. But I don't think I used them in a creative way at all. But it satisfied kind of the craving of writing pen on paper every day. And I documented my life in it, but very minimally, like just the key stuff. And then it wasn't until 2016, me and my family had moved back to Finland from the US, and I was trying to settle back into my life, do a lot of kind of challenging stuff at school, finish my secondary school, and I had to do a lot of extra subjects that I didn't have the grades for in the US. Like, we didn't do religion in the US, but in Finland, you need to pass the religion subject to graduate from like secondary school, primary and secondary school, from 9th grade basically. And yeah, basically there was a lot to do, and I was struggling a bit mentally, like settling back in. And by coincidence, I had found this YouTube channel called Studying. Let's see, I had noted it down somewhere in this book from 2016 that my sister gifted me during Christmas. And I'll get into all of this in a bit because it's so interesting. So Studying, but then the the G and the N is just switched around at the end. Rules, the daily log rules. So as you can see, there's already a lot of overlap with this book that I did 8 years ago and my practice now. So I wrote in Finnish in this book, and half the time I wrote in English. So in this book, I think this is the only one that I truly have a 50-50 mix of Finnish and English. But let's go through a couple of the things that have stayed the same, and I can't believe that it has stayed the same because I did not realize how long I've been doing this for, and how true to my system I've stayed, even if I don't do bullet journaling anymore. And this is not even a bullet journal, but I was treating it as one. Here I'm just saying, like, I got this book for my sister, and I just thought I would just use this for a bit of everything because I would use it for everything random because the quality of the paper isn't the best in the world, so I can't use it for everything. I guess I'm talking about like my watercoloring and stuff. I couldn't do that here. But here I'm like, mainly I will be writing here some random and maybe useless thoughts, reminders, to-do lists, and grocery shopping lists. So this is a very useful book. So I started out by writing my intentions, as I always do for my books. I don't know, I think I remember even doing this for that first steel cover book that I got when I was 8 years old. I even wrote that, oh, I got this book from my dad, I'm going to use it for this and this and this random stuff. But I didn't have a system for that book, no system at all. Whereas here, if we skip to this rules section, I had written down, first of all here, what is the key, basically. I've written the daily log rules, but here I'm really talking about the key for oh my gosh, for my daily logs. The title would be in blue, everything else is in black. This is about the tasks. This is very bullet journal style. Then I would be including the weather and how many glasses of water I've drank. It's crazy that I still do this. So here I had done like an outline of the page. Margin, most important. I literally still, like, margins have always been my best friend. I've always done a margin. The date and the weather. Sää is weather in Finnish. what I have to do. So to-do list was my big thing. So I would always have like a big to-do list for every day. I was very obsessed with productivity at that point because I had the dream of getting into a good high school, which was the IB program, and then eventually getting into medical school. So I felt like productivity was what was needed, to the point that it was just a bit too much towards the end. And as I mentioned it in the earlier video, in part 1, I did go through burnout in high school because of this obsession with productivity, and I just approach my life very differently now. And then at the end it would be a small summary of how the day went. All right, and this was my key, and then I guess I just started from here. The day, weather, how many glasses of water, to-do list, date once again, and like little summary. And like I said just earlier, productivity. So I got everything on the list and was very productive. I guess that was an important part of my day. But even though I was productive, the only thing stressing me right now is school. So academics was a cause of stress, but also the reason why I tried to be so productive. So yeah, here I guess I kept some money logs here, to buy lists, and once again these daily logs. I don't know why I never filled in the other page. I think it was, oh well, it seems like I've done it here. But I think it bothered me that there was some shadowing on the page. I often would write or start my journal entries by writing, if you don't remember. So if like talking to myself, if you don't remember this in the future, this is what I did. And I would always sign it at the bottom with my name and a heart. All right, so that's when I started journaling, I would say. That's when the intention really was strong, and I started this daily practice, almost a daily practice, I'd say. So bullet journaling, researching it and trialing it out in this book. Once I had noticed that this book really worked for me, I got an actual bullet journal. I believe my first one was this one over here. And I'm trying not to leak my full name, so I'm gonna just open it here. It was from 2018. So I guess this was, yeah, so this book was from the kind of end of 2016, and I kept at it through 2017, I guess, and then I waited until I can start 2018 in this book, it seems. Yeah. Bullet journaling key, index that is not used. That's funny because these days I use my indexes like religiously. And a future log. This is really funny. Budgeting, I really love these, like the illustrate or like the to-do lists. Okay, so yeah, I really love the decorations that I've done in this book. I think it's really minimal and I really like it. I guess here I'm gonna start answering the question, what kind of books did I use before the Hobonichi? So I think this is a Finnish brand, a Finnish design brand from Sana ja Olli. They just did various bullet journals. I don't know if they're still active, but this is where this bullet journal is from. And then I think from after that, I moved on to this book here. This is a, let me try to look at it. victoriasjournals.com. I am not really sure who makes these, like Victoria's journals. I haven't really heard much about it. Here you can see the paper is really different already, and I'm using the book very differently, maybe not as organized. But I think I was just having a really, I can't believe I used blue ink as well. But I think I was just having a really busy time at high school at this point. Some stuff has fallen out of here. Yeah, some ephemera that I haven't properly glued in. But yes, I was really busy with high school at this point. So it's not as organized. But then, let me get these books. That was from then 2018. Then we have 2019 and 2020, and then I fell off with my bullet journaling practice in 2020, in the beginning of it, because I finished high school. I had nothing to do in my life anymore except just rest and be on holiday until I started medical school and do a bit of summer work. And I didn't really need a planner for all of that, it seems. At least I wasn't using one. Instead, I did some, like, the only thing that I was really doing at the time when I was taking time off from everything was some drawings in this specific sketchbook. But I don't really have a proper log of that time in my life, which I really regret. I really wish that I would have kept up with my practice of bullet journaling in order to, like, I don't know, just know what I was up to during lockdown and what things I was doing, what I was keeping notes of, etc. I think I might have the beginning of lockdown noted down, you know, in the early spring of 2020, but I did fall off of it quite quickly. Instead, I was just doing these drawings. Here I've just written the year and not the date, so 2020. As I said in part 1, I really love taking portraits with my photography. I've always loved taking portraits, but I also love drawing portraits just as much. It's just something about the human kind of individuality that's so different when it comes to faces. So I like to take portraits because of that. Yeah. So I think both of these are Leuchtturm notebooks. So the Leuchtturm 1917 books, I really fell in love with them. I really enjoyed using them, and they worked super well for me. And yeah, still bullet journaling, still doing it kind of almost on a daily basis. However, yeah, and as you can notice, I always had just one book per year. So this is the whole year in one book. It's not very chunky. It doesn't have a lot of ephemera. It's mainly just for, like, you know, planning, the way that you'd use a bullet journal to plan. So I hope that I answered kind of those questions of what kind of books I used before the Hobonichi. And I guess I still need to talk about a couple of books before I can completely answer this question. So yes, at this time when I was doing the bullet journaling, I was journaling, despite the name. I was truly journaling and having a moment of diary entries 1 to 3 times per week. So definitely not every day. I was not logging a lot of my feelings down. I wasn't really writing about my reflections on life, etc. But still, if you'd like to see me go through these books in a bit more detail, as yes, I did bring almost all of my past journals with me to the UK. I did not even remember that I brought all of these, like, just in my suitcases. I just got everything with me. I think it was just really important to me to have these memories from the past with me at all times. So yeah, I flew them with me from Finland to the UK. Goodness, yeah. So let me know if you'd be interested in seeing me flip through these and reflect them on in a bit more detail, because I know that we don't have the time to do all of that today. But I think I would be keen on looking through them and seeing kind of what reflections arise, thinking about my life in high school a little bit more in detail. It wasn't the best time of my life, but I think it was a very, very valuable time for my kind of self-discovery and identity building and stuff. So yeah. Okay, I'm gonna put these to the side for a bit because we're gonna move on talking about what happened after 2020. So, as I said, I fell off of my routine of using a bullet journal, and I made various attempts to kind of have a planner. This was my quote-unquote bullet journal when I was in medical school, like the first year of medical school, but I think I only made it until like this much. And this is all empty pages. And I was using it very inconsistently. I did not have the same system as before. I was kind of burnt out with bullet journaling. I wasn't finding the fun in it anymore, so I stopped using it. I did make this cool illustration here at the front though, because I was doing medicine, my first year of medicine, and I was so excited about it. So I made this kind of medicine inspired illustration here at the front. I'm sorry to say that I forgot who the original artist of this iconic like man figure is. I feel like I should know, but I have forgotten. Apologies. But yeah, so I made that illustration here, and I think the illustration is the only reason I've kept this journal. I might at some point just take off the cover, keep it, and maybe just archive this somewhere, because I don't know if there's a lot of useful things in here. Maybe just some rambling about how I was struggling within the first few months of having moved to London, but not much, like nothing really useful other than just some complaining, I think. Unfortunately, I didn't really have a grip on what I would like to do in terms of archiving my life. So instead I was just doing a lot of photography in that first year of medical school. I was doing a lot of photography and documenting my life that way. Luckily, at least I have that. But then I took a long break from any physical journaling. I did everything digitally on Notion and on Google Calendar until I realized that it wasn't truly working for me. I needed something more. And that's when I was able to be close by to Muji, living in London. So in, I guess, 2022, so I had a 2-year break, kind of like a true break. And from June 2022 to October 2022, I had this little planner, as you can see, that's like, I guess 3 months. Yeah, 3 months. 3 or 4 months, just in this book, mostly just planning, barely any journaling, as far as I know when I just looked at this. And then once again I had a break from all the way from October 2022 to April 2023. I wasn't even trying any systems at that point, because I think I was a bit lost with my life in general, and medicine wasn't really feeling good at the time, and I think that's when I would have needed a journal more than ever. But oh well, we are past that now. And luckily in this book, towards the end of it, I found commonplacing. I did it for a bit here, and maybe I kept up with it for a month until I realized that I had figured out a system that worked for me, and I needed a bigger book for it. So I purchased this book from Muji once again. So basically I had used random bullet journals, then the Leuchtturm books for 2 years, and then these Muji books. This is also a Leuchtturm, I'm pretty sure. Actually, I don't know. Let me double check that. This one actually might also be from the Victoria's journals. Yes, it is. The random company that I mentioned earlier. It's good paper. I enjoyed using it. But yes, so then after that, so Leuchtturm and Victoria's journals, I switched to Muji for very inconsistent times. And then, as you can already see here, I put some effort into the cover. I had a plastic cover on top. I decorated it, and I started my first commonplace book in here. I actually worked on that almost every day. And this was a kind of a day-free planner. So I would do my monthly planning in here. Looks very different from now, as you can see. I did my monthly planning here. I did a weekly section as well. Very messy, but still it was working for me. And then my bullet journal, my commonplace book was at the back. Then you can see here that there's some pages that are a bit shorter because I cut off the side to differentiate these pages from the other commonplace pages. These pages came after I completed my second commonplace book, which was just an A5 Muji notebook. It worked really, really well for me. I loved this time in this book. And then I realized that I wouldn't be able to, I wouldn't finish this book. I wouldn't finish using the weekly pages in this book. Instead, I cut the weekly pages so that I can use them as my third commonplace book. So I was using basically this Muji notebook literally to finish every single page of it. Even though it had these weekly sections, I was really still going, I was still doing my my writing on these weekly pages without a grid. And I made it work somehow. So this was my last book before the Hobonichi Cousin Avec of 2023, the second half of 2023. And from then onwards, it has just been Hobonichi in my life. And now more recently, the Traveler's Notebook as well. Okay, I think I've now answered these 3 questions. Yeah, let's move on. So yeah, we are now at this point from 2023 April onwards. I found the commonplacing community, I found the journaling community here on YouTube, and I started using the Hobonichi as my daily planner. Okay, a very important question. Someone was reflecting that they're wondering, with so many beautiful options of stationery and any paper related items out there, is it hard for me not wanting to consume as much as maybe some other creators are consuming? This is really interesting, I think, because I think for my whole life, my parents are quite minimalist people, I would say. Especially my mum in the more recent years has really like cut down on the things that she owns, and she has always been the one to teach me that whenever I buy something, if it's not food or something that is an absolute necessity, like that you need it to live onwards, that you should think about it for a few days, and if you're still thinking about it, then perhaps it might be something that would be worth getting, as it might improve kind of your quality of life, or the ease, well, just your life, or it might give you some happiness or joy. Okay, so I have always been receiving kind of this teaching from my mum, and I think ever since I moved out of Finland and to the UK, London is a lot more expensive than the city that I'm from. Hence my like use of money had to really be improved so that I would use it more and more wisely. So as I mentioned, I moved here in 2020, and that was still the time that I had not found a system for me that works. Only until about a year ago, I found the community, and that's when I got introduced to, I guess, the different brands that exist in stationery, mostly Midori and Hobonichi and stickers, I guess. So how I started out was that I actually I barely had any stickers. I had ordered this one pack from Amazon because I was using that at the time because I think it was supported by, like, I had gotten a free Amazon Prime from my university. So because of that, I was using it at the time, not really knowing the harmful effects of Amazon. Hence, I don't really use it that much anymore, or barely use it. But I just had this one sticker set from Amazon. That's all I had. It was like £3, and that's what I used for the first 3 commonplace books that I had, and for my journals as well. Everything else was ephemera that I collected from various coffee shops, trips, ticket stubs, movie stubs, stuff like that. So I wasn't using any money on stationery at the time, other than having just one Muji pen, one Pilot Friction pen, and 3 of their highlighters, and a ruler. And I think those were things that I was anyway using for my studies. So there was no really a lot of consumption of stationery at that point. I think ever since I started to use the Hobonichi, and I found more creators that use the Hobonichi, there's a lot of creators that have really, really beautiful spreads with multitude of stickers, etc. But I still had the mindset of what I have is good enough for me to journal. Like, in the end, I was just always thinking that all I need is a pen and my book. So, and I've always just had this mindset. I don't know, like, I've always had the mindset of, like, I have everything I need, that kind of thing. So because of that, I wasn't really swayed at all by all of the other things that existed. And ever since even finding out about the different stationery shops in the UK, such as the London Graphic Centre, the Journal Shop, Choosing Keeping, these are some of the shops that exist in London at the moment. I love going there, but I always have a specific item that I want to purchase before I go to the shop. and I will only get that item if it's something that I need, and I won't get anything else. I think the only kind of exception to that was the stationery fest that I went to recently. However, I did have the intention there as well. I think just intentions are just very useful to have, because you know what you want to do, and then you just do that thing and then try to avoid anything else. So going to the stationery fest, I had a small budget for myself, and I knew that I wanted to expand my sticker collection, because I just felt like this was a new side of the hobby that I wanted to enjoy, is getting some stickers. So I chose very carefully which stickers to purchase and made sure that they are kind of fitting to me and my style. And even though there was a lot of cute things, a lot of beautiful art and stationery at the stationery fest, I knew what I was going there for, and I kept it to that. So I think it's not really difficult for me to avoid consuming things, because I know what my intentions are when it comes to stationery and my journals. And like, I don't really need new stationery to motivate myself to journal. So I guess that would be my simple answer to it. But I know that kind of FOMO in this journaling community is really difficult to stay away from and to resist this fear of missing out. But I think as long as you feel comfortable in what you're using and the system that you're using, and you know your style, then I don't think you need to get anything else, to be honest. And for real, I think like the first whole year I got by just with the stickers that I had gotten for very, very cheap, and then like free stuff from like free ephemera, and then my friends would give me their stickers that if they got it for free from somewhere, and so on. So journaling really can be that simple. And I feel like now that I've gotten more and more and more into it, there are the fun aspects of maybe getting some stickers, and then in a way I can get more variety into my spreads with those stickers, and then it's also feeding into my creative self. But I hope that here on this channel you never feel the pressure to purchase anything. I hope to just share the useful stationery that I have that are in my use every day. And maybe some of that might be something that you're looking for, and then in that way I'm glad to contribute to your kind of enjoyment of your journaling. But I never want to put any pressure to purchase things and so on. I think it's really important to be intentional with this stuff, and if I don't use something, I usually try to get rid of it and give it to someone else. And even with my pens, for example, I get them secondhand to make sure that they're cheaper and that they're not going to waste, and so on. I talked about this pen in part 1, and also secondhand. So yeah, and on top of it, I think it helps that I'm a student and I don't have a lot of money, so I have to budget. That definitely helps as well. Thank you for this really nice and reflective question. What are your must-have stationery items? I think that's linking very well to the previous question. I have 3 things, I think. I have, or maybe 4 things. My must-have stationery items are my book, my Hobonichi Cousin avec, and I like having a cover on top of it, so that's 2 things. Another must-have is just one pen. I have been, throughout my whole practice of journaling, I've always just, let's go back. Until 2020, I just used whatever I had, like whatever was at the house, whatever pens were lying around. I didn't mind. I just used whatever was available, and I never purchased any pens. The first pen I purchased when I was in the UK was the Pilot Friction pen, and I used that alongside with a Muji pen. And those are the 2 pens that I've used continuously until I received my first fountain pen, and now I am using these 2 fountain pens as my 2 pens, red and black, in this book. So a red and black colored pens with red and black ink. Red and black ink, maybe. Okay, so red and black ink. My Hobonichi Cousin avec the cover on top of the Hobonichi cousin, as well as a ruler of some kind. Doesn't matter what kind of ruler. I don't know if you're thinking about kind of some really exotic must-have stationery items that I might have, but honestly, I really, if I were to have to choose and minimalize it as much as possible, I would literally just have my Hobonichi cousin avec and one pen. I would be able to do with just that. Okay, so I guess at this point I plan on using this Kaweco Allsport for a really, really, really long time. I'm a very loyal person when it comes to like brands, and I think and systems, and I think that's why like that also helps with not spending too much, is because I get attached and I feel like I'm very loyal to the things I use. So I would just use that and nothing else, and I won't really get swayed by anything else because I feel like I already have the thing. And my pen is the Kaweco Allsport, and my book is the Hobonichi Cousin avec. Then there's a couple of questions about my daily journaling practice. How do I find the time to journal every day? Do I have a regular time of day for journaling? And how exactly do I form or schedule a day of mine on paper? So first of all, how do I find the time to journal every day within my my kind of busy schedule? I think I'm getting ahead of myself because I've seen the other questions, but how do I find the time to journal every day within my schedule is a difficult question to answer, I think, because now that I've been doing this for more than a year every single day, it's not even that I find the time to journal for it. It's that I find the time to do everything else in my life by journaling. So in the beginning of the day, that's the first thing I do. It's either with my coffee or with my breakfast. I have my journal, I open it to the weekly page, I check what I have to do, and I schedule in the part of my day into my weekly page. And then I go to the daily page and I make a log of what time I first log in. So let's take this page from today as an example. I make the time log for the day. When do I first log into the book, kind of, and I put the main to-do list here and I start writing. And basically, like, I think it's rather the way that, so there's two ways of, I think, thinking about journaling. Either that you make time for the journal and you work for the journal to make your journal nice and pretty and fun to use, and it's almost like you are doing it for the journal. Or there's another perspective where your journal works for you. So your journal comes to you, your journal gives you the space to write down whatever it needs. Your journal works for you to organize your schedule for the day, such as in the weeks. And once I started to approach from my practice from the perspective that my journal is working for me, like it's my kind of it's my employee. Is that the word? It works for me, rather than the other way around. And whenever I started to approach it from that perspective, it just started to work. Like my journal was coming to me and it was gravitating to me, and I was just using it as I wished. And there was no pressure to try to make it look nice or anything like that, because I wasn't working for the journal. The journal was just working for me, and I was using it to like however I wished and however I needed. So because of that, I don't really find the time to journal, but rather that the journal just finds me, and then we work together to find time and schedule the rest of my life. So I hope that makes sense. Then there's a question of how long in minutes and hours do I journal each day? And that varies so immensely. I think it's anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours. If I'm having a busy day at medical school, I can write maybe for 15 minutes in the morning, have a quick check-in, like 5 minutes at lunch, just write down how I'm feeling, etc. And then when I come back home, I would just write the rest of the events of the day and maybe do a bit of decoration. And then altogether that might be a bit more than 30 minutes. But when it's only 30 minutes, I usually fall a bit behind on the weekly log, as well as the index and my habit tracking, my life tracking. And that's okay, because then maybe during the weekend when I have more time, I'll come in, I'll enjoy slowly working through my pages, and I'll enjoy filling in my monthly page, my mood chart, and so on. And during the weekend, it can be up to 2 hours where I'm really just enjoying it and enjoying my time in it. So once again, really varies, but I use it as much as I need to, and that's anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours, I would say. Once again, do I have a regular time of day for journaling? I think if we look at my timestamps, that's quite useful. You can always see that they're usually in the beginning half of the day, so before 12 p.m. Here it's 10, 11, 11, 10, 9, 1:30 p.m. This is usually if like I've had a lot to do in the beginning of the day and I haven't even had the chance to sit down and write, then it would be a bit later. Or if I somehow have like a difficult start to the day or something like that. Once again, 10, sometimes it's at the very end of the day. This was my last exam day and I had a lot to do that day. I had to take my last exam and I just tried to relax after that, and then I just realized I haven't even like really tuned into myself the whole day, so I went in just before midnight to do some writing. But usually it's in the beginning part of my day, usually at home or at a local coffee shop. But here as well, once I started my holiday, the time started to be a bit earlier, so around 9, 10, and very early today before 8 a.m. So yeah, and then this question, how exactly am I scheduling a day of mine on paper? So I'll just recap that a little bit. So I usually start my scheduling of the day on a Sunday evening or Monday morning, and so kind of in the beginning of the week I schedule all of my days. Let's take this week for example. It's a very empty week, but yet actually no, this week is we're still on Sunday. Okay, let's take this week. So let's take this week for example. No more uni, but still a lot of social events. So usually this scheduling happened on Monday after my exams, and what I did is that I look at my monthly page. I look at all the red things, like things noted down in red because those are plans, and I note down the plans in the weekly spread, and I put them in I use the actual timing from 5 a.m. to 12 a.m. I use the times and I schedule in the events within my day so that I make sure that I have time to do all the things I want to do. And then on a daily manner, when I open my journal, I flip to this weekly page. So for example, today, I look at what I wanted to do today, and based on the events of the day, I write down a to-do list. Sometimes I don't have a to-do list, such as yesterday, I just had noted down that I'm meeting Joe at the Dover Street Cafe. And that's it. I'm not doing anything else. And I'm just having a break. And then after I've written my to-do list, I just journal. And then as I'm going along my day, I might pop back in and say how I'm doing, how I'm feeling about some of the things I'm doing, and what I had for lunch, etc. Whatever comes to mind. And that's how these pages get filled up. So a lot of you did recognize that I do have a very busy schedule, and they would like to know what are my top tips for making time and energy to journal within that busy schedule. And I wanted to just still keep this in here, even though the answer will be a bit similar to the previous question of how do I find the time. But my top tips are once again to make your journal work for you so that you don't have to think about scheduling in time to journal, because ideally you'd be using your journal to schedule in other parts of your life, or perhaps to write about the things that are happening in your day. And so that's one thing. The next thing is making sure that your journal is something that you can carry on with you. Because I'm just using this black cover, I'm not really afraid of it getting scuffed up or getting marks on it, because it really doesn't. So I can just throw it in my bag all the time. I carry it everywhere I go. This way, if I have a quiet moment, I usually get excited that during this quiet moment I get to journal. I'll get to take it out and I'll get to do a couple of write a couple of lines about how I'm feeling at that part of the day. So carrying it everywhere with you is super helpful. And then I think the one thing that keeps me just coming back to this journal is that I'm very attached to it. I spent time and energy to think about how I want it to look with intention. I designed the front cover. I covered it with this craft paper. I placed a sticker on it of one of my favorite artists, and I wrote in it with my own handwriting. I think that all makes it feel very personalized and very true to me. Because of that, I feel like it's my book. I identify with it and I want to carry it with me and I want to use it. So I don't even feel like my journal is taking away from my busy schedule, because it's my companion. It's my tool to handle that busy schedule. And I think that's kind of the simple answer to this beautiful question. And then Alex had another question for me. If I have any other planners that are catching my eye at the moment for next year, or is it Hobonichi all the way for you? So this is a lovely reflective question that I have some thoughts on. So earlier this year, I was introduced to the Traveler's Notebook for the first time, and I truly didn't really know that it exists until maybe March or April time, when I was seeing it in a lot of other people's videos, and I was like, wow, like I didn't realize that this is like one company that just makes all of these inserts for this one system. I thought it was like just a style of book. Like I thought it was like A5, A6, passport size, and then the traveler's size. So I found out about the actual company earlier this year, and I think it was a similar feeling as to when I first found out about the Hobonichi. It was that excitement and that kind of being very impressed with the system of it, and so on. So I wanted to kind of think about it. So I went and I purchased, I purchased the Traveler's Company clip, because I was like, I want to introduce myself to the products, and I used it in my Hobonichi. And very slowly I was just thinking that this is something that I really enjoy. I enjoy all the beautiful art that the Traveler's Company releases within their products, and I just was thinking about it more and more. But I knew that I wasn't going to be switching systems middle of the year. As I said earlier, I'm a bit of a stubborn person, maybe. Maybe I'm a bit of a stubborn person, so I want to stick with whatever I start. That's always been the way for me. I will finish what I started. But I sometimes I'm good at knowing when to quit if things aren't working out, but I usually, if I'm enjoying it enough, I finish what I start. Whether it comes to studying, whether it comes to, my degree, like this degree, anything in my life before, I try to finish what I've started, and at least try my best at it. So anyway, with the Hobonichi, I was like, I'm enjoying this so much, there's no way that I'm just switching over to the Traveler's Notebook if I don't know if I'll enjoy it. And I think because of that, because I didn't get any kind of other proper products from them other than, and this is so funny because now I'm showing you my Traveler's Notebook a couple months later, I had only purchased that from them, as well as this this card slot insert, so that I can keep some of my stationery in it, because I hadn't really found something similar that I can just keep at the back of my notebook. So I had gotten that and I was like, oh, this is lovely. These are very nice products. I enjoy them. And they were very useful to me, and they kind of elevated my practice of journaling. So they were good products for me. And because I hadn't purchased any of the inserts and I hadn't tried out the system, I very quickly noticed that yes, I love my system in the avec. I love it, and it works for me so well. And I also realized that when I was doing my 3-part series of changing books from one avec to the next, that I'm so emotionally attached to these books, and they just, I couldn't imagine a more perfect system for myself. However, when the Stationery Fest was nearing and I was going to meet some new friend there, and also this Jo Journals was going to come there, and she has multiple travelers notebook covers, and she knew that I had been maybe thinking about trying it out, so she so kindly gifted me this black cover, and she had it kind of lying around, and I'm so grateful for her still for this, because turns out that it's for me the perfect system to keep my stationery in. I have a book to keep my swatches in, to a sticker release notebook, a little folder to keep all of my extra ephemera in, as well as that cover card slot insert as well, to keep things that aren't stickers but are small enough to kind of put into the separate card slots. So it works so well for me as a stationery archiving system, something that I use every day with me. So everything I use is just my pencil case, this book, and this that has all of my like kind of ephemera in, and the things that I work with to customize my pages here. So I think, to answer your question, I have realized now, even with having this book, that it is not a system for me to use as a planner. I don't think. I haven't tried it, but to be honest, I don't even want to, because you know the saying, don't fix what's not broken. So I don't think, like, this works so brilliant for me that it makes no sense for me to try this out in a planner system way. It works so well for me just now as a storage of my ephemera and my stickers. That's it. And I love the feel of it as well, and it looks very pretty. I enjoy that, and I also like that I got it secondhand, and I only purchased those few essential inserts to organize my stationery in. Anyway, so that's my reflections on my traveler's notebook dilemma, and to answer your question, it really is Hobonichi all the way for me. I have a hard time thinking about if I would ever change away from the Hobonichi. I'm just very lucky to have found my system, I feel like somewhat quickly, and yes, okay. This question's really cute. So, does your partner journal too? If not, does he understand your passion for journaling and stationery? So, I have some exciting news, and I'm very, very grateful to say that. First of all, he is like so supportive of, first of all, my journaling practice. He's always keen to hear about like any updates in my system, any updates like anything stationery and journaling, wise, anything within that realm. He's always excited to hear about it. He asks me about it, and he was even a bit sad that he couldn't come to the Stationery Fest in Manchester with me. He really would have wanted to go, so I think he'll be coming next year. So that already says enough. He does keep a notebook, I think, every now and then, but what I've understood is that there isn't a proper system for it, and he's not very consistent with it, but also that doesn't bother him, because he's a very digital person as well, and works with kind of digital art and digital modeling of things, and etc. So it seems like he's okay with what he has going on right now. However, he did let me know recently that he has been thinking for a while now of getting the Hobonichi Cousin avec. I think that he's been seeing me use it, and he's been trying to find a book that he can include his sketches as well as his words in, like writing. And he would also like to be a bit more consistent with that, but he needs also like grit paper, and he needs very specific paper because he is interested in fountain pens, or getting a fountain pen. Okay, so all in all, he has his first avec on its way. I think he should be arriving to his place in a week or so. So he's jumping on the Hobonichi journey. He doesn't have expectation for it. He's just excited to try it out. He thinks that it's gonna be the best system for him to basically write one page every day. He loves to write, so I think it's gonna be less of an aesthetic thing, but more of just writing. And we talk about stationery a lot. We talk about my journal, we talk about fountain pens, and we talk about all of that a lot because he's really into design, really into like product design. And I think like with stationery, design is, I think, kind of at the center of it all. So he's really into it, and I feel really, really grateful for that, because it's lovely to have someone so close to me that I can talk about all of these things to. I'll be also updating you on his Hobonichi journey in the future if you're interested. And then the final but most difficult question from this journals. I saw this and I was like, wow, she really knows how to put me in a pickle. If you got to test out any other notebook system for one day, what would it be? First instinct, once again, I think would be, and I'm gonna go back to the Traveler's Notebook here. If I got to test it out for one day and someone would just give me their leftover inserts that I can just test out for one day, I would like to have a Traveler's Notebook that has all the inserts that I already have, plus a empty vertical weekly and an empty daily, you know, like where I think there's a daily insert where you can put in the day, and I would use one spread per day. And I would like to see how that works. So I would test the Traveler's Notebook inserts, the daily as well as the weekly, where you can yourself write the day. That's what I would do. So that is my answer. Simple answer. I could talk about a lot of other notebook systems that intrigue me, but I know I wouldn't try, because I just, once again, I just have that kind of a bit of a stubborn mentality that I have something that works, I'm not going to change it. And I'm just going to enjoy it as long as it works, and I will worry about it the day that it stops working for me. Wow, okay. I think that is part 2 of the 6-month celebrations with the Common Corner finished. And I'm excited to go on celebrating my day. And today is also the final match of the Euro Cup, so the football cup. I'm usually not into sports or anything, but England has made it to the finals, hence I will be watching the game over some hot pot with my partner, and we just have a very fun and relaxed Sunday coming now. So I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for all the questions. Thank you for all the reflections that you've given me. Thank you for sitting around the Common Corner for the last 6 months. I'll see you again next week Sunday. I am going to Eastbourne tomorrow to visit the stationery shop All Things Analog. Really not to buy anything from there, but just to visit. I love to be around stationery, even though I'm not purchasing anything. And yeah, I will be mentioning that also next week and just updating you on how my summer is going. I'm not sure if I'll make any other videos next week. I might take it a bit more easier and just have a lot of days that are just empty. But I will see you at the latest next week, Sunday. Okay, have a lovely time until then. Bye bye.